So imagine you've built the perfect website.
Oh, you don't want that.
Right? The design is flawless. You've optimized every single headline. Your traffic is just surging. And maybe a recent post is even catching some serious viral traction on social media.
People are liking it, sharing it.
Exactly. They are commenting all over it. But, and here is the nightmare scenario. Your phone is dead silent.
Yep.
Your inbox is an absolute ghost town. You built this, digital field of dreams. They came, and then they immediately turned around and walked right out the door.
It's probably the most common and honestly the most expensive illusion in modern business today. Mistaking visibility for actual action.
That's a great way to put it. So today, we are dismantling that illusion. Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. We are looking at a highly specific, granular guide today, and it's titled Converting Stem Cell Interest into Qualified Patient Inquiries.
Which is a fascinating document.
It really is. And, if you are listening to this right now and thinking, well, I am in B2B software, or I run an e-commerce brand, not a medical clinic, I want you to stay with us.
Yeah, do not tune out.
Right, because our mission today is to decode the architecture of turning passive, skeptical online interests into actual qualified conversations. While the source material focuses heavily on regenerative medicine clinics, the underlying psychology we're about to unpack, it applies to absolutely any industry where trust is your primary currency.
It absolutely does. And the reason stem cell clinics make such a phenomenal case study for this kind of conversion strategy is because the stakes are just inherently astronomical.
How so? What makes it so different?
Well, you are dealing with potential patients who are often in chronic pain. They are facing really complex medical decisions, and they are bringing a massive amount of natural skepticism to the table.
Which makes total sense.
Exactly. Furthermore, you have regulatory bodies. The FDA is constantly monitoring the space. They issue active warnings about unapproved regenerative medicine products all the time.
So as a marketer in that space, you're completely stripped of the usual, hyper-aggressive sales tactics.
You can't rely on hype at all.
Right. You can't just slap a miracle cure guaranteed banner on a webpage and just, watch the credit card swipes roll in.
And honestly, that constraint is actually a gift.
Really? A gift?
Yeah, because it forces the strategy to be built entirely on clarity, education, and responsibility. If you can engineer a system that successfully converts a frightened, highly skeptical patient into a willing participant in a medical consultation, and do it without making a single overblown promise, you have basically built the ultimate conversion engine.
Oh, wow. I see what you mean.
That exact framework will work for selling enterprise software, financial consulting, luxury real estate, you name it.
Okay, so to fix this silent phone problem, the guide points us first to what it calls the digital front door. Basically, where are these clicks actually landing?
Right.
And if you've ever run a paid ad campaign, you know the temptation is to just point all that expensive traffic straight to your homepage.
Oh, it's the biggest mistake people make.
It really is. It feels a bit like, imagine going to a massive hardware store because you need a specific washer for a leaky faucet, right?
Okay, I'm with you.
And the greeter at the front just hands you a map of the entire store and yells, buy something.
Good luck finding the plumbing aisle.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what sending ad traffic to a generic homepage feels like. You're forcing the visitor to do all the cognitive work to find the thing they actually clicked on. So how do these clinics actually fix this?
Well, that cognitive load is exactly what kills conversions. If a user clicks an ad specifically for, let's say, a stem cell therapy consultation in Chicago,
Okay.
if they land on a generic homepage, they are suddenly staring at a navigation bar with 10 different links. They see a history of the clinic, maybe a section on massage therapy, some blog posts from 3 years ago.
Their brain just immediately registers friction.
Exactly. They have to hunt for the specific thing they clicked on. And in the digital space, the moment a user has to hunt,
They bounce.
they bounce, they are gone. Which means the only logical solution is to remove the hunt entirely, right? The user needs to land somewhere that acts as a direct continuation of their specific thought process.
We call it the hyper-specific landing page. It operates on this principle of immediate confirmation.
Okay, break that down for us.
So, if the search query was about a consultation in Chicago, the bold, above-the-fold headline on that page must literally say, stem cell therapy consultation in Chicago.
Yeah, so no clever marketing jargon, just giving them exactly what they asked for.
Precisely. It should focus exclusively on that one topic, answer immediate logistical questions, feature a brief profile of the provider, and present a very clear path to take action. No digging, no complex navigation menus.
Got it. But the call to action on that page, the CTA, this is where I think a lot of standard marketing advice completely falls apart.
Oh, definitely.
Usually the best practices dictate a big, bright, contrasting button that just screams book now or buy now. But the guide argues that for high-stakes decisions, book now is completely the wrong move.
It is the worst thing you can do.
It feels a bit like a surgeon walking into the waiting room, handing a nervous patient a scalpel and saying, "Let's go."
That is a very accurate, if slightly terrifying way to look at it.
Right. It skips the crucial steps of diagnosis and establishing trust.
What we're really talking about here is matching the psychological readiness of the consumer. Only a tiny, tiny fraction of the people who click an ad are actually ready to pull out their calendar, put down a credit card, and commit to an appointment right then and there.
That makes sense. Some people are just looking for baseline pricing, I assume.
Exactly. Some are trying to figure out if they are even a candidate for the therapy. Others are just doing preliminary research for a family member who is hurting.
So if your only option is a giant book now button, you are actively alienating anyone who isn't at the absolute bottom of the funnel. You are telling them commit fully, right this second, or get out.
Which is why the text introduces the strategy of tiering your calls to action
Yeah.
based on that varying readiness.
Tiering.
Yeah, you create safe, approachable pathways for different stages of intent. So for the person who has done their research and is ready to talk, you offer something like request a consultation.
Okay, that's for the highly motivated ones.
Right. But for the person who is hovering in the middle and has specific doubts, the CTA might be speak with our team.
That feels way less committal.
Exactly. And for the person who just started their journey and is purely gathering information, you offer download the patient guide.
I love that. So we restructure the front door, we match their readiness with a tiered CTA. The user feels understood, they click, let's say, speak with our team, and they are taken to the inquiry form.
Yes.
And this is where the next massive drop-off happens. Okay, let's unpack this. They see the form, they freeze, and they close the tab. If I put myself in the shoes of a potential patient, I am running for the hills the second a website form asks for my full medical history, my insurance provider, and my group number just to get a simple phone call. It feels a bit like proposing marriage on a first date.
It really does. That is a classic symptom of a business prioritizing its own convenience over the user's experience.
Yeah, the clinic just wants all the info up front.
Clinics and businesses in general get greedy for data. They want fully qualified, deeply profiled leads handed to them on a silver platter. But the cost of that greed is immense friction.
So what should they do instead?
The psychological goal of the very first inquiry form is not to build a comprehensive medical dossier. It is simply to get the user to raise their hand.
Just a signal of intent, like a virtual wave across the room saying, "Hey, I'd like to start a conversation."
Precisely. To facilitate that, the form needs to ask for the absolute bare minimum. We're talking name, email address, phone number, and perhaps a single drop-down for their main concern or the best time to reach them.
Yeah.
That is it.
And they can get the rest later.
Exactly. The clinic staff can collect the insurance details and the medical history over the phone later, after they have established a human connection and built some actual rapport.
But the guide says the length of the form is only half the battle, right? It points out a deeper, more insidious psychological block happening right at the moment the user's mouse hovers over the submit button.
Yes, the fear of the unknown.
Right, the black box effect.
Think about the internal dialogue happening in that split second. The user is wondering, if I hit submit, is an aggressive salesperson going to call me in 4 minutes? Am I going to be trapped in a high-pressure pitch for a $10,000 treatment?
Will I even get to speak to a real medical professional?
Exactly. That uncertainty triggers a threat response, and paralysis sets in.
So if uncertainty is the primary roadblock, then the only way to dismantle it is to shine a light into that black box. You have to literally map out the future for them.
And the source provides a remarkably elegant tactic for doing exactly that. Right below the form, you explicitly outline the sequence of events that will occur after they click submit.
Just laying it all out.
It doesn't have to be complex.
Yeah.
Step 1, our team reviews your inquiry. Step 2, we contact you to answer your preliminary questions.
Simple enough?
Step 3, if appropriate, we help you schedule a consultation. And step 4, during the consultation, the provider reviews your situation to discuss next steps.
I want to pause on the phrasing there. If appropriate. That is such a powerful diffuser.
Isn't it?
It subtly communicates that the clinic has standards, that they aren't just desperate for a sale, and that the patient retains total autonomy. It takes the pressure cooker completely off the boil.
It completely reframes the interaction. It becomes a collaborative evaluation rather than a sales pitch.
Wow.
And to further reduce that friction, the guide also emphasizes the necessity of a persistent click-to-call button for mobile users.
Oh, because so many people are on their phones.
A massive portion of healthcare searches happen on smartphones. Typing out even a short form with your thumbs can sometimes feel like just too much effort, especially when you're in pain or anxious. Giving them a floating button to instantly dial the clinic caters to that immediate impulse.
The source also highlights putting a Meet the Doctor video right next to that contact form. Which, I mean, that makes total sense from a behavioral science perspective.
It does. Why do you think that is?
Well, before I hand over my personal information, seeing a video of the doctor speaking calmly, seeing their body language, it bypasses the logical filters and starts building a parasocial bond. It humanizes what is otherwise a very sterile digital transaction.
It transforms the clinic from a faceless corporate entity into a team of actual human beings.
Exactly.
However, even with the most optimized, frictionless, empathetic form imaginable, we have to acknowledge a stark reality here.
Okay, hit me with it.
The vast majority of website visitors, often upwards of 90%, are strictly lurkers.
90%. Wow.
They are purely in research mode. They are comparing your clinic to 3 others in the area. They need to discuss finances with their spouse, and they have absolutely zero intention of talking to your staff today.
So we've optimized the path for people willing to fill out a form or call. But what about that vast majority? Do we just let them leave? That brings up the huge dilemma for the modern marketer. If they leave, how do you stay in their orbit without becoming the brand they actively despise?
Creepy stalker ad.
Yes. We all know the feeling of looking at a pair of shoes online, and then for the next month, those shoes follow you across every single website you visit, flashing aggressively in the margins. It causes banner blindness at best and active brand resentment at worst. So how does a clinic avoid that?
Well, what's fascinating here is how the strategy pivots from a direct response model to what we might call the slow dance.
The slow dance, I like that.
You pivot from trying to sell a service to providing education. You offer the lurkers a lead magnet, a high-value piece of content exchanged for their email address. In this specific context, it would be a patient guide titled something like 7 Questions to Ask Before Choosing a Regenerative Medicine Clinic.
See, that specific title is brilliant because it positions the clinic as an advocate for the patient. It says, "We want you to be a smart, protected consumer," which ironically makes the patient trust that specific clinic more.
Exactly.
So they hand over their email to download the guide. But the critical piece is what happens next. If the clinic sales team immediately calls them 5 minutes later, the trust is totally broken.
Oh, completely.
Okay.
The follow-up is not a cold call. It is an automated, meticulously paced 5-step email sequence.
Okay.
It is not a sales cadence. Think of it as an educational curriculum. The first email simply sets expectations about what a regenerative medicine consultation entails.
Just pure info.
Right. Then a few days later, the second email unpacks those 7 critical questions to ask any provider.
So pacing is everything here. You are allowing them to digest the information without feeling cornered.
Exactly. Then the third email introduces the doctor and the clinical team, shifting the focus from the clinical data back to the human element.
Building that trust again.
Yep. The fourth email offers practical advice on how to prepare for a first conversation, what medical records might be helpful, things like that. And finally, the fifth email provides a gentle, very low-pressure invitation to request a consultation.
And while this entire sequence is running in their inbox over, what, a couple of weeks?
Usually, yes.
The guide suggests pairing it with educational retargeting. Instead of stalking them with ads demanding they book now, you serve them retargeting ads that link to a helpful video on your site, maybe explaining the recovery process.
You stay visible.
Right. You stay visible, but you are lowering the amygdala threat response by offering value rather than demanding a transaction.
It builds incredible authority.
Yeah.
But, and this is a but let's look at the operational side of this. Let's assume a clinic actually implements everything we've discussed today.
Okay.
They have tiered CTAs, a frictionless form, and lead magnets generating all these email captures.
Mm-hmm.
A natural concern for any business owner at this point is the floodgate effect.
Right. Here's where it gets really interesting. If we make the forms incredibly simple and friction-free, Aren't we going to get flooded with unqualified inquiries? You could have a front desk coordinator wasting 3 hours a day calling people who live 3 states away or who want a service the clinic doesn't even offer.
That is the inherent risk of a low-friction model, and it is why the guide insists on introducing strategic friction.
Strategic friction.
Yes, you don't want to revert to the 500-word essay on their medical history, but you do need to add 1 or 2 intelligent qualification questions to your simple form.
Give us an example of that. What does strategic friction actually look like in practice?
It could be a simple drop-down menu asking what city or area are you located in, or what is your timeline for seeking a consultation.
Oh, I see.
It adds maybe 2 seconds to the user's experience, so it won't tank your conversion rate, but that single data point allows the clinic staff to prioritize their outreach. They instantly know who needs a phone call within 5 minutes and who goes to the bottom of the callback list.
It's basically triage. And that leads directly into the mechanics of routing these inquiries, doesn't it? Because not all leads are created equal.
Not at all.
A CRM, a customer relationship management system, has to know the intent behind the interaction.
The routing logic is absolutely paramount here. If a user submits the main website consult form, they are demonstrating high intent. That inquiry needs to trigger an immediate alert to the staff for a fast phone call.
Get them while they're ready.
Exactly. But if someone simply downloaded the 7 questions guide, they are demonstrating low intent. They should bypass the front desk entirely and be automatically routed right into that automated email sequence we just discussed.
Because if your team treats a researcher the same way they treat a ready-to-book patient, the whole system collapses. You overwhelm the researcher and you end up neglecting the hot lead.
Exactly. Which means we really have to talk about how a clinic actually measures if any of this is working. In marketing, it is dangerously easy to fall in love with vanity metrics.
Oh, don't I know it?
We all love looking at a dashboard that says website traffic is up 40% this month. It feels like real progress.
But raw traffic does not keep the lights on. The source strongly emphasizes shifting the focus from vanity metrics to things like cost per inquiry and qualified inquiry rates.
That's the only way to know the truth.
Because you could publish a blog post that ranks super well and drives 10,000 visitors, but generates 0 actual patient conversations.
Yep.
Conversely, a highly specific landing page might only receive 50 visitors, but if 10 of them fill out a qualified consultation form, that page is infinitely more valuable to the business.
You have to track the events that actually impact the bottom line. But throughout all of this, the ads, the forms, the tracking, there is a massive structural constraint looming over regenerative medicine. We touched on it earlier, but we really need to define exactly what it means for the messaging.
You mean the compliance factor?
Yes. When you are operating under the purview of the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, which monitors truth in advertising, and the FDA, which regulates medical products, your language must be impeccably precise.
Right.
The FDA requires approval for many regenerative medicine products before they can be marketed to consumers. Therefore, a clinic's conversion messaging absolutely cannot make definitive medical claims.
So you can't run an ad that says, our stem cell therapy will cure your osteoarthritis. That is just a regulatory nightmare waiting to happen.
It is illegal, and frankly, it is bad marketing anyway.
Really?
Yeah. The fascinating thing about these regulatory constraints is that they actually force clinics to use responsible, process-oriented language. And as it turns out, that language converts better anyway.
That's amazing. Give me an example.
Instead of a CTA that says, fix your pain, it becomes, speak with our team to explore your options. Instead of reserve your treatment, it shifts to request a consultation to learn whether regenerative medicine may be appropriate for your situation.
It goes right back to that concept of the scam radar. As a modern consumer, we are constantly bombarded with hyperbole. If a medical clinic guarantees me a miracle on a landing page, my guard goes up immediately.
Of course it does.
But if they say, hey, let's sit down, review your specific case, and see if this is even a viable path for you, I respect them. The regulatory constraint actually forces the clinic to build deeper trust.
Exactly. But stepping back from the messaging for a second, let's look at the sheer mechanics of what we've mapped out today.
It's a lot.
It really is. We have discussed hyper-specific ad campaigns, tiered landing pages, frictionless forms with strategic qualification, automated 5-step email sequences, behavioral retargeting pixels, and CRM routing logic.
So what does this all mean? When you lay it all out like that, it sounds less like a marketing plan and more like a massive, fragile spiderweb.
It can be.
You have disparate software systems, your website builder, your email platform, your ad accounts, your CRM that all have to talk to each other perfectly, via APIs and webhooks.
Yep.
If the form doesn't pass the lead intent tag to the CRM correctly, the whole sequence breaks. Who actually builds this massive interconnected web? It's a massive amount of technical debt.
Which brings us to a harsh reality. Most clinic owners, and honestly, most business owners in general, do not have the time, the technical expertise, or the desire to connect all these complex pipes.
They're too busy running their business.
Exactly. They are trying to treat patients or run their operations. This is why the source text introduces the necessity of an architect, specifically pointing to a company called Socially Buzz.
So Socially Buzz essentially acts as the general contractor for this entire digital ecosystem.
They build out the conversion-focused strategy from the ground up.
All of it.
All of it. They handle the search engine optimization, the SEO blog content to drive the initial awareness. They design the hyper-specific landing pages, optimize the inquiry forms to balance friction and qualification. They write and automate the lead magnet email sequences, and they implement the analytics tracking to measure cost per inquiry.
So they are building the machine so the clinic can just focus on operating the machine. They close all the gaps in the funnel so that the visibility actually translates into revenue rather than just leaking out into the internet.
It ensures that the high-level strategy we've been discussing actually survives the implementation phase. Because ideas are easy, execution is hard.
And that really brings us to the core realization of this entire deep dive. Generating interest is the easy part, right? Going viral, buying traffic, getting eyeballs, that is just a commodity you can purchase.
Anyone with a budget can get clicks.
Exactly. But that visibility is completely useless if you haven't engineered a clear, deeply empathetic, and highly educational pathway to capture it.
It is about fundamentally respecting the user's journey, meeting them at their specific level of readiness, providing the exact information they need at that moment, and systematically removing the psychological barriers that cause hesitation.
It's the slow dance.
The slow dance, yes.
And that leaves us with a final thought to ponder as we wrap up today. We've seen how this meticulous, education-first approach builds necessary trust in a highly scrutinized field like stem cell therapy. But consider where technology is taking us. As artificial intelligence becomes increasingly capable of mimicking human empathy, as automated emails and chatbots become basically indistinguishable from a real person reaching out, how will businesses of the future prove that their slow dance is actually genuine?
That's a great question.
When every company out there can automate a perfect, frictionless funnel, the ultimate competitive advantage won't just be the system itself, but the undeniable, unautomatable human competence waiting at the end of it. So think about it. If this responsible, readiness-based conversion philosophy works so incredibly well for something as highly regulated and expensive as stem cell clinics, how could you apply this exact same slow dance marketing approach to your own business, your own side hustle, or even just how you persuade people in your everyday life? Think about how your business is proving its humanity today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We will catch you next time.